Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. Terence Crawford and JARON Boots Ennis. Listen, a lot of back and forth after JARON Ennis did the business this weekend. People saying Bud and Boots are the same. I say there's some similarities. I don't think I'm ready to say they're both the same, but there's some similarities. I think it'll be a competitive fight. But that being said, let's get me out of here because it ain't about me right now. It's really about JARON Ennis, man. You know, and Crawford. Crawford's retired, but it's really about JARON Ennis and giving him his respect as a now unified champion at 154 pounds. But understand, Terence Crawford and Ennis, man, I want to talk about what they have in common and then kind of what, in my opinion, still separates them. And not everybody's going to agree on everything. But the bottom line is, I think we'll all agree that it's fun having a debate about it now. A matchup between Crawford and Ennis. It's a fantasy fight, okay? They share many of the same strengths. That's why there's so many comparisons being made, and so many people who are Ennis fans feel he would beat Crawford. Younger, fresher is how they feel, so he beats the old dog. But there are others saying, shit, no matter what strengths Ennis has, he ain't going to be able to compete with Crawford because of the experience, and Crawford has those strengths and more, most importantly, composure. But there are also many important differences. So rather than one fighter being a copy of the other, although I always say only a ninja could kill a ninja, and these are two ninjas that would be going to war. Many fans see Ennis as someone who possesses several qualities that made Crawford elite, but he's still developing his own style. And that's really important to note. JARON Ennis possesses several qualities that make Crawford elite. That's what we see when JARON gets in the ring. We see those qualities. Like, damn, man, Crawford do the same thing. Crawford whipped a lot of people's ass just on being able to do some of those things we're seeing in Ennis. But Ennis, his style is not the same as Crawford's, and he's still developing. But that's what's driving the conversation. Now, you say, all right, we hear you, Hood, but what does Crawford and Ennis have in common? Well, first thing, especially after this weekend, if you didn't know, now you know, elite ring IQ, man. You know, both fighters solve problems during fights instead of relying on one game plan. Ennis showed that. Crawford has showed that in every single fight. I mean, I can pull from any fight, but let's just talk about like the Hank Lundy fight. I remember watching that fight with Crawford and the Hank Lundy fight. And I'm like, damn, Hank Lundy talk all that Philly shit and was touching Crawford up. And then Crawford said, all right. He turned it to the problem maker he turned a problem maker, and then Crawford became a problem solver. So I said, Crawford doesn't rely on one game plan. And it showed that this weekend. He didn't rely on one game plan. You know what I mean? So they both have elite ring IQ. Reading opponents well, recognizing patterns, making adjustments, exploiting weaknesses as the fight progresses. Now, neither really panics when plan A isn't working, but there is one who seems he gets a little bit anxious, and that's JARON Ennis. I remember watching Crawford fight Benavidez Jr., and we were like, shit, Benavidez Jr. touching him up. And Crawford you saw what he did. He said, all right. He said, I got to solve the problem. So the problem is, you got to be fair to Ennis. He hasn't fought at the level that Crawford's fought on yet. He's getting there now. He's making his name now. He's establishing his legacy now. But I would say when it comes to that elite ring IQ, they both possess it. But Crawford definitely shows more composure when plan A isn't working. But remember, there was a time when Crawford fought Gamboa and he was going all out. You know what I'm saying? But then Crawford got clipped, but then he stayed, he panicked just a little bit, and then he let his hands go and dropped him. So I just think what Crawford was before he retired, he was very seasoned, and Boots ain't seasoned like that yet. So kind of unfair to say Boots is exactly like Crawford, because that's not right. But it's also unfair to say that, you know, Terence Crawford would lose to Boots, because Crawford shows that he's more experienced and more polished. Now, switch hitting ability. I mean, everybody who follows Ennis, who follow Crawford, you know they both can switch it. Both are comfortable fighting in either stance. Shit, Crawford has come out in orthodox and immediately switched to southpaw. You know, once he turns to the southpaw, man, fights in. Ennis showed that shit in this fight. He came out orthodox. He looked damn good. Damn good. Fast hands, combinations. And then he went southpaw. And he looked even better. But this creates problems because opponents must constantly adjust to changing angles. Crawford used to do the shit too. He'll throw a shot, step out on an angle. Now he went from southpaw to orthodox. The orthodox is southpaw. Always changing, stepping with his opponents, man. And when he stepped, depending on how they step and shift, the power goes from the left hand to the right hand, or the right hand to the left hand. So these different lead hands and shifting offensive looks confuses the shit out of their opponent because now they're getting hit with bombs from both hands and they don't understand what the hell's going on. And you saw Ennis do that this past weekend against Xander Zayas. But I want to make this clear for anyone out there who's thinking that they can just come out here and start switch hitting and have success. It's only effective when backed by solid fundamentals. You know what I mean? Like, you can't start trying to shoot from the three-point line if you can't hit a goddamn layup. You know what I mean? So both fighters have shown solid fundamentals, and that's why they're so successful with the switch hitting. Now, the other thing that they both have in common is offensive creativity. They don't depend on one single punch, but I do think Ennis tries to go for the knockout. And it's going to take time for him to grow, to mature, to stop just looking for the knockout. Box. Let the knockout come. Yeah, you want knockouts, you can get knockouts, but you take some shots in return. Unnecessary damage. You don't need to do that. Just box, win the rounds. The knockout will come. Don't go force it. Because when JARON goes in there, yeah, he does the business, but he ends up getting himself clipped. And he's been doing that for a long time. This is nothing new. He fights, he gets hit. But he's always able to stop people. This was the first time we've seen him get hit and hurt. So the level of competition has increased, so he's got to be careful. You know what I'm saying? But as far as that offensive creativity, he and Crawford both have it. Jabs, hooks, uppercuts, body shots, combinations. I mean, you're doing this, and remember, they both can fight from both stances, so you got different angles, different levels. So it's hard to predict these guys when it comes to their offense. And then the timing. The timing is on point for both of them. They both can land punches as opponents step in, pull back. While they're throwing, they throw with them. Or the opponent's resetting, they time it and bing them. So well-timed shots can outspeed power and timing. And speed. Hold on. Okay. There's my son coming in the house. And timing is a hallmark to both of those fighters, man, you know. And then this whole thing about finishing instinct, both of them, they get you hurt, you out of there. You know what I mean? When they sense you hurt, their pressure starts to increase. But intelligently, they don't just come and just start, you know, free swinging and start turning to a boxer brawler. No, they very intelligent with closing the show. You know, they're not in there getting all wild like Ricardo Mayorga or Rolly Romero. They want to finish, and they have a very calculated offense. And then being able to adapt. Plan A isn't working. They show they can change rhythm, distance, and punch selection. Crawford has shown that to us time and time again when he gets in the ring. He was doing that all the time against Madrimov, and you saw him making a lot of adjustments and adapting when he got in that ring with Canelo. And he's done it in every fight. But you just saw here with JARON Ennis, he had to do that against Zayas because JARON got hurt, badly hurt, and he had to adapt. And that's why it was difficult for Zayas to finish him because he's like, damn, I thought I prepared to, if I get him hurt, I can finish him. I realize this man is changing gears while he's hurt. And the other thing, they both have a lot of athletic ability. I didn't realize Ennis' hands were that quick. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know. I know he had quick hands, but not like that. To see him boxing in combination, I was like, shit, JARON Ennis can fight. I've never seen him fight like that. But maybe it's coming up to 154 now. He's more comfortable. He's not weight drained. You know, he's happy. He can eat. But them hands, balance, reactions, coordination, the movement, everything explosive, they have it. They're both very athletic. And that gives them more options in the ring when you have natural athleticism. But I'm going to tell you what gives Crawford the edge. This is perhaps the most, I would say the biggest distinction, right? But remember, I'm telling you, if Crawford and Boots fought, it'd be competitive. But the biggest distinction here is just my opinion is at the highest level. Crawford has spent years facing elite world champions and championship level opponents. And that matters when facing another elite boxer. Everybody talks about the bright lights. It's different when you get under the bright lights and you have the crowd. Some people unravel. It happens, you know what I mean? Stage fright. But the other thing Crawford has, in addition to experience at the highest level, is just composure. He shows patience, man. Crawford is just cool as a cucumber. Rounds don't go his way. He stays calm, makes adjustments, doesn't try to force the action. If he has to, he'll turn up. You saw that when he fought Sean Porter. They said something to him in the corner. He was like, "What? I'm down." And what did he do? He turned it up. But you saw that he had the ability to remain calm up until that round. Boxing, and he thought he was up. He thought he had control. But once he got word it may not be like that, he turned the heat up. And as a result of Crawford having those qualities, man, he has a proven championship resume. Boots doesn't have that yet, but he's getting there. He got some work to do. Crawford has done the business across multiple weight classes, unifying titles, winning titles, beating great world champions. You know what I'm saying? So you got to put some respect for Terence Crawford and what he's done as far as championship fights and that resume he has. And just Crawford's abilities, again, to just make adjustments. Beginning of the fight, mid-fight, end of the fight, and his efficient punch selection. He don't waste no offense. He don't waste punches. I think Boots gets a bit anxious. He can waste punches, some wasted movement. But I think down the stretch, conditioning could ultimately be the difference. As well as, Crawford's more patient, and Boots seems like he's still worried about what the crowd thinks. Corner's always shouting shit at him. That seems to be a bit of a distraction. But at the same time, Boots is still dangerous. Physical size, naturally large. Size, reach, strength. Presents challenges, and for he and Crawford to be pretty equally matched there. Hand speed, again, I don't know whose hands are faster. I think for combination punching, maybe Boots. Crawford gets a little bit wide, but he knows what the hell he's doing. I'll tell you that. But them quick combinations can make it difficult for opponents to settle into a rhythm. And if Boots fights like he did against Zai, especially them early rounds with them quick hands and combinations, it gives Crawford an opportunity to try to time him and punch with him and punch in between shots. But I think Crawford would have to do what he normally does, is make some adjustments, because he may find himself getting touched up and the crowd would probably be shocked. But then for JARON Ennis, he also has an offensive variety because he's so athletic and he shows his athleticism inside the ring. He does all kind of shit. He going upstairs, downstairs, long range, inside, on the outside, jumping on one foot. I mean, all kind of versatility. And that can make Crawford work throughout the fight, you know what I'm saying? Plus, he's just younger. He recovered more quickly between exchanges and between rounds, and he could push a higher pace. But I don't know if Ennis can push a high, fast pace without sacrificing discipline. If he can do that, then he'll be okay, and that becomes an asset. He also has confidence. You can't tell Ennis that, he's not going to win a fight. He doesn't seem to be intimidated by anyone. He does appear to intimidate people, and he doesn't seem to have a problem with facing elite competition. So anybody who's doubting JARON Ennis, after seeing what he did this weekend, I'm not saying Zayas is Crawford. I'm just saying that was a real test, and he passed that test with flying colors. So there's something special about JARON Ennis in them two hands. He got power in both hands, just like Crawford does. So Ennis is the real deal. But again, I'm going to tell you, there's some areas where Ennis would need to improve if he were to fight someone like Crawford. Just one, more experience against elite opposition. It's just like Mayweather when he fought Canelo. Canelo was a young pup out here doing the business, and everyone said, hey, he's going to beat Mayweather. Mayweather just showed that too much experience for him. And he made Canelo look average. But then look what Canelo did after. And I think if Crawford fought Boots, I think it'd be more competitive, but I think eventually that experience would show up. But then again, Ennis has so much experience out there in Philly as a young guy in them gyms, as a pro. He's got the shit. I just think Crawford has been in against more elite opposition than that experience would show. The next thing for Ennis as far as improving, just more patience, man. Be more tactical, more strategic, be okay with winning rounds, and just let the knockout come to you. Don't try to force it. And with that, he'll be able to make high-level adjustments against opponents who can do the same thing to him, as adapt and make adjustments. So I think that would give him a huge edge going into any fights. But when I talk about these things, it's like, yo, it just sounds like common steps in the progression of many fighters, especially top fighters. If you can't do that, you're probably not going to get, or if you get to the top, you're not going to stay there. But if you can do that, you probably stay there a lot longer than others. So you say, all right, you say all that to say this. I'm going to tell you again, I think the fight's competitive. You tell me if you think they're the same or not. I say no. But I just think Ennis has athletic tools to make the fight compelling. You know, size, speed, power, creativity. He's young, confident, got the offensive versatility, man. You know, that could create some difficult moments for Crawford. But Crawford, again, that experience, composure, that resume at the championship level, reasons why even now people will make him the favorite, whether it's slight favorite or whatever. He's still the favorite if he and Ennis met today. So that's why boxing fans want the fight. You know, it represents more than just two talented guys. Like I'm telling you, only a ninja could kill a ninja. But it would test proven championship experience or emerging athletic talent. You know what I'm saying? That right there would be the battle. Crawford with the championship experience and the athletic talent from JARON Ennis. And I just think we're going to find out at the elite level, man, which one would I think which one would overcome the other. So it doesn't matter who you favor, who I favor. I think the contrast between Crawford's resume and Ennis' potential. Crawford's resume, what he's done, and his potential. I think that's really what makes the fight so compelling is we know what Crawford can do, and we see the potential of Ennis. You bring together Crawford's resume and Ennis' potential, you really get a big question mark. And that's why everybody's talking about it and wants Terence Crawford to come back and fight him. But if you say, hey, Hood Champion, rub the crystal ball, play soothsayer for a second. All right. I'm not going to hold my horses. I'm going to take it to the stupid and make a prediction. If they fought today, I'd say it'd be competitive. Wouldn't be surprising if it was competitive. Ennis has the tools to win rounds and presents, I think, difficult stylistic questions for Crawford. I think he's that talented and that great of a fighter. But I just think at some point in time, Crawford starts to create that separation and that championship experience, adjustments. I just think those are factors that me, as a little kind of, ghetto analyst, a bootleg analyst, I would see him I would see that giving Terence Crawford a narrow edge and a high-level contest. And that's just how I see it. So, Boots and Bud, are they the same? No, they ain't the same. But boy, oh boy, do they possess some similar qualities. But that doesn't make them the same. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.